just when you think you've seen it all, you see somebody who's thinking outside the box and you think, wow, again.
Welcome to CREPN Radio for influential commercial real estate professionals who work with investors, buyers, and sellers of commercial real estate coast to coast. Whether you're an investor, broker, lender, property manager, attorney, or accountant, we're here to learn from the experts.
Welcome to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio. We're so glad you could join us. My name is Darren Gross. I am a real estate investor and a commercial property insurance broker. Our goal here at CREPN Radio is to have a conversation about commercial real estate, and today is no different. Our guest is John Arnold. He's with JA Communications Group, Inc. If you or your clients are invested in real estate, you've got communication needs with your property that continue to change. And we will talk a little bit more about that here in just a bit. But before we do that, no matter how you found us, whether it was on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, website, or iTunes, we're glad you're here. And as always, if you like what we're doing, let us know. We'd love to hear from you, as well as we love your likes, shares, and follows. If you have not already, I want to remind you to be sure and grab your copy of Real Estate Investor's Guide to Commercial Insurance. You can get that at jdarrengross.com. And if you have any questions about any of yours or your clients' insurance needs with commercial real estate, reach out to me, and I will do all I can to help. All right. I know in my lifetime, communication has changed dramatically. I remember when I was probably first learning how to use a telephone, we had a party line at the house. And now we literally have live video from a handheld wireless device, just like the cartoon The Jetsons when I was growing up. The growth in wireless communications with cell phones and Wi-Fi often leads people to think that there are no wires involved, but yet the backbone to all communications is some sort of a landline. And a little bit about my own personal history. Prior to getting into insurance and in real estate investing, I worked for Motorola. I was a factory rep selling two-way communications in rural Missouri, but I learned a lot about transmitting and receiving on the wireless side of things. And more recently, I've had the opportunity to work as an insurance broker with telephone companies, and I've seen firsthand the challenges that they face with the ever-changing demands from clients and the technology changes. So it made sense to me to have a conversation about communication services for commercial real estate. It's a challenge that will continue to evolve. And so here now is my conversation with John Arnold of JA Communications Group, Inc. All right. On the phone today, I've got John Arnold. John Arnold is with JA Communications Group, Inc. John, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Darren. Glad to be here.
Thank you for making some time for us. And before we get started here, John, I'd like to have you tell the audience and a little bit more about yourself, a little bit more about your company and your experience.
Okay, yeah, we'll keep that to a nutshell overview, but I'm president and owner of JA Communications Group. We've been around for about 15 years, and I'm one of the first or second agents that was brought in when Teleris opened their doors. Teleris is the master agency I represent, and kind of a unique business model, but Teleris represents about 40-some of the nation's first-tier, top-tier carriers, where we're able to guarantee in writing that it's the lowest price that a customer is going to get for a given circuit, location, and term. So I've been in telecommunications for, let's say more years than I care to admit, a couple of decades anyway, but it's been a fun ride, and it's almost a full-time job to keep up with what's going on in the industry.
Yeah, I'll bet. No kidding. When you talk about the changes in communication, I know in the last 10 years, if you go back 20 years, even more so, but from the twisted pair of wires that were your telephone lines into a residence, or if you went into a commercial building with a big switch room there, and how that's been reduced. I know I've worked with some telephone companies before where they had a whole room that was dedicated to all of the telephone lines, and now it's basically can be handled by a computer no bigger than like a desktop.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the rate of technology, most homes have more bandwidth going into them today than the total sum of the bandwidth going into NASA 20 years ago.
Wow.
So it's been a fantastic change and continues to move upward.
Wow. Well, and let's talk a little bit about that, because I think one of the things that or one of the assumptions I think people have, and if you don't look too far, you probably don't have any reason to understand it more. But I think there's a notion that everything's wireless. I mean, my cell phone works, my computer works. That notion of it's all in the air continues to exist, but people don't realize that at some point there's a tie into a landline there, and how important that is, and maybe a good point to start with this is just that change that you've seen, or continue on that change conversation with the demand for I guess a more rich, bigger pipe, if you will, for the data and the information that's being transmitted over the phone lines.
Oh, absolutely. The demand for bandwidth continues to go up, and it's something where so many people expect that as part of a standard thing. Like, of course, I've got plumbing in the house. Of course, I've got electricity in the house, and right along with that, of course, I've got internet access in the house. And whether that's in a house, an office building, an apartment building, a condo complex, whatever, it goes to assume that goes right in there with plumbing and electricity. So more and more is being required, and a lot of people are becoming very innovative about that. Just to give you just a real quick example, I've got a customer who is he's got a big fiber Ethernet pipe going into his place, and he's using it to wirelessly service 1,000 residents of a condo community with voice over IP and internet access. He's providing the wireless, the carrier is providing the big pipe, and it's half the cost for the residents of what the local cable company would charge for the same thing, yet it's insanely profitable for him. So there's a lot of thinking outside the box there happening.
That's interesting, because especially with apartments and that, I would assume that a lot of the residents probably tend to have more of a cell phone. But I know that once you get past the cell phone, you want a computer, which ultimately the experience is much more rich on a bigger screen than that little handheld thing. You pretty well need some sort of a bigger communication connection than your cell tower will provide.
Oh, absolutely, and especially when you get into some of the regulations, like the 911 thing from your cell phone. If you dial 911, they've got to do a lot of work on the back end to determine: are you calling from Des Moines, Iowa? Are you calling from New York City? Are you calling from Denver? Where is your emergency, sir? Because a cell phone signal can come in from anywhere. So that's one of the issues that they're dealing with.
Right. So let's get into this a little bit. If a commercial, and let me ask you one more question before we get into it. Do you primarily work with property owners, or do you work with the tenants of the commercial space?
Actually, I've worked with both. It seems to be about 50-50 right down the middle. It almost seems to work out better in an office building environment, commercial real estate, if I work with the individual tenants, simply because there's no way for an office building manager to understand he's got 20 units in his office building to know what the requirements are going to be for those 20 tenants. He might say, well, okay, we'll get a 100 meg pipe. Well, tenant number 1 and 2 could consume 100% of that and then some. So I've worked with both, but it seems to work out better ultimately for the tenants if I work with the tenants directly, because then I can work with the tenant to determine, with the apartment owner, in hand, of course, to make sure, okay, what are you trying to accomplish? How much bandwidth do you need? And, kind of do an evaluation that way.
Right. And even before we get into, there's another question popped in my head here. So obviously voice was the first thing that we were transmitting, or probably wasn't even that Morse code if you go way back. But so voice, now we have data with all the internet. You've got TV. What am I missing there? What are the things that people are putting over the pipe, the internet?
Well, data would be right at the top of the list, because you think about things like Skype, voice over IP, this kind of thing. That can be done with a data connection. Doesn't require the traditional phone line connection. The phone line connections are still out there, but more and more people are going into Skype using the specific asterisk box. It's an open source box where they can do their own thing. What I see a lot more customers going into when they need voice in there as well is going with a hosted PBX. And I don't want to go technical on you here, but that's where the carrier provides the phone equipment in the cloud. It's all data-based. And the benefit of that is that the property owner or the office owner doesn't need to do a capital expenditure for phone equipment that's got to sit in his suite. So it makes it a whole lot cleaner. There's a lot of benefits to that, topmost of which is the lack of capital expenditure required.
And I assume all the updates are handled then by the cloud, as opposed to you having to monkey with that on the.
That is true. That is true. One of the other benefits that people need when they absolutely need their phone to be able to ring if somebody calls them is that things happen. They're doing construction near the building. Mr. Backhoe cuts through the fiber connection going into the building, so, of course, phone lines don't go in. Well, if your phone equipment is in the cloud, it detects that, and it says, I can't get a signal there. Where should I forward this phone? So you could have the phone forwarded for calls coming into your office phone, to your cell phone, your home phone, your, whatever. You could have it forwarded somewhere else so that you don't miss those phone calls, because for office people, they live by the phone, much of them.
Right. So let's get into this, kind of going down the path I was thinking originally. So you are an agent for, you said, 40 different companies. Is that right?
40 plus. I don't know what the number is. It's actually greater than 40, but it continues to go up.
Gotcha. And so as an agent, can you describe the relationship an agent would have with a property owner as opposed to, I guess, a direct carrier representative?
Well, I am equivalent to the direct representative. I'm not a broker, where the distinction is that a broker would get one price from the carrier, he would mark up that price, and he would sell it to the customer at the marked up price. And that is not our business model. I'm an agent for these carriers. I've got 40-some hats in my desk drawer. So I'm equivalent to the agent who goes out there and you're talking with him face to face. One of the big differences is that I take an interest in what you want to accomplish. I talk with customers that say, well, I need a 500 meg circuit. Well, sir, can you tell me what you're going to do? Well, come to find out, he only needs a 50 meg circuit. I don't want to sell him more than he needs. So we talk about that. And I take an interest in his business because customer retention is very important to me, and doing the right thing for the customer trumps having an unhappy customer any day of the week.
No, I hear you there. So when somebody reaches out to you or communications person, what's the first thing they should consider for their communication needs?
I would say look at your communication needs not just by the end of the day, the end of the week, even by the end of the month. I would say, if possible, look out as far as you can. What are your needs going to be a year from now, 2 years from now, if you can see that far? My recommendation would be not to get a circuit where it's going to be maxed out bandwidth-wise on day one, but give you some room for growth so that you're not going through a constant upgrade path every 3 to 4 months.
Got it. And I'm just curious, you with technology changing as fast as it is, are people able to expand their I guess the capacity or their need easily today, or is that something that it's a rip out and total redo if you increase your demand?
Yeah, it gets to be easier and easier because, in fact, I do that probably almost every day of the week for different customers. They start out with, say, a 10 meg circuit, and then they discover, even despite the conversations we had pre-sales, 3 months down the road, they say, John, I should have gone with a 20 meg. Can we do an upgrade? You absolutely can. Let's go ahead and do that. So, it becomes a really easy thing to upgrade them all the time. And especially with the dedicated circuits. The dedicated circuits are very easily upgradable, and an upgrade could be done in a couple of weeks in most cases to double the bandwidth, where the price might only go up by a couple $100.
Right, and is that on the equipment side of things? Or are you able to do that as a matter in the back end in the cloud? Provide that additional?
It depends on the kind of circuit. Typically, it's done at the back end, for example, at the carrier's POP, point of presence. So, they flip some switches on the back side, process the new paperwork, and then, things get rolling. But it's a very simple thing. And one of the things that I try to do for my customers is handle that stuff on their behalf. Once I know what they want to do and they explain to me, okay, yeah, John, this is what I want to do. Yeah, I understand. Here's the price. And I understand, yes, this is how long it's going to take. I handle that from the back end out because my thought process is my customers have a business to run. They don't know telecom like I do, so I will do as much as I can on the backside for them so that they don't have to invest their time into waiting on hold and playing, telephone transfer and all this kind of thing.
Gotcha. So along those lines with the demand, recently, I know we kind of had an assessment just in my house. There's nobody other than we just realized things were kind of not as fast, or the signal wasn't always available. How do you or how does the industry keep up or educate or continue to deal with expanding demand for wireless? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. In the major cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Houston, et cetera, there are carriers that provide wireless access. In the more rural areas, I have several customers who are actually a WISP business, WISP, which is Wireless Internet Service Provider, where the residents out there can't get DSL, they can't get cable, so a company has formed to provide that service to them out in the middle of nowhere, and they're actually doing quite well that way. So, but in terms of providing that service, a lot of people don't realize that, for example, DSL and cable, they say, well, okay, I'm going to get DSL and cable, like you were just saying for your home. The problem with DSL and cable, and a lot of people don't realize this, is that it's a best efforts service. There is no guarantee. Comcast, Time Warner Cable, et cetera, may advertise, 50 meg down, 20 meg down, whatever. What they don't tell you is that it's not guaranteed anywhere. Nowhere in the contract does it guarantee that, because at the end of the day, it's a best efforts service. Now, I do provide those services through the major carriers, Comcast, Time Warner Cable, et cetera. However, I try to emphasize this is not guaranteed. If your business is going to live and die by having reliable, always there internet access, you might want to really consider a dedicated circuit. And the dedicated circuits, whether on copper or fiber, come in with a contractual guarantee between the customer and the carrier saying, here's what the bandwidth is 24/7. And if it's not, If you're seeing a slowdown, somebody's got a problem. And, typically the carrier has a problem, but at that point you open a trouble ticket and, the problem gets rectified.
So on a dedicated circuit, what kind of a business, can you give me kind of a parameter of somebody that would have that need on an initial size of business, or what kind of a volume of content would they be?
Yeah, there's really not a rule of thumb. It really depends on what they're doing. For example, if you take a small insurance office, maybe 3-4 employees, 5-6 employees maybe, in a case like that where they need to do online insurance quotes for their clients, et cetera, probably cable, perhaps DSL, is going to be sufficient for their needs. But you start expanding that. Cable and DSL were never intended to be more than household items for residents. So you got mom and dad, maybe Sally and Johnny, and that's it. You start getting more than 3-4 people on a cable circuit. All of a sudden, the cable circuit starts showing what it was designed for, and it was not designed for more than 3-4 people simultaneously. And that's the kind of thing where I would recommend a dedicated circuit.
So 3 to 4 people at a time is kind of like the capacity really for a cable.
It really is. Even the top of the line Comcast circuits, a lot of my customers use them, but they use them for backup. They use them for backup because they need the always on. It has a tremendous negative impact on their business if their fiber Ethernet dedicated circuit goes down. So they use that as a backup. And it's just kind of a warm fuzzy, if you will, to make sure that, okay, I've always got connectivity.
So, and I don't mean I'm getting any kind of quoting kind of thing, but I'm just kind of curious when you say 3 to 4 people on a cable, and if somebody wants to go to that next level to a dedicated circuit, are you talking a price of 10x, or what are we talking about to go from a business package that services 3 to 4 people at a cable to a dedicated circuit?
Well, it really depends on the kind of circuit and where it's located, because these circuits are kind of like real estate. It's all location, location, location. But to give you an example, a simple T1, which is a dedicated circuit, data only, but they can run VoIP on it if they want to do their own thing with VoIP. We're talking under $300 a month. Whereas, that's pretty darn close to what the top end Comcast or TWC cost would be. Now, the benefit to your smaller office, in addition to that, is that they say, well, I'm going to go at the top end with cable, and I'm going to share it with the business next door because my office is in a strip mall. The problem is that is a direct violation of the terms of service for DSL and cable. You cannot share it because the DSL and cable providers want to sell it to each individual person by themselves. Now, by contrast, with a dedicated circuit, you can share that circuit as many times as you want to share it. It's a total private transaction. It's totally up to you. You charge whatever you can get for it. As long as the bill gets paid by the end of the month, though, the carrier doesn't care how many times you share it.
Right. And the capacity, I guess, from a dedicated to or from a cable to a dedicated entry level kind of thing. How much capacity are we talking about? I mean, if the one will handle the 3 to 4 people on it at a time, what kind of, I get it. I know it's all different, depends on what's going on, but I'm just trying to get some sort of a sense of
Sure. Well, if you say 3-4 people is top end for most DSL and cable, I've got customers out there with a standard T1 where twice that many people is not even causing the T1 to work up a sweat. The thing is, you can't look at just the numbers of the bandwidth. For example, a T1 is 1.5 up and 1.5 down, and a lot of people look at that and say, well, God, that's so much less than what the cable advertises. Well, first of all, the cable doesn't guarantee it. You don't know what you're going to get. Secondly, with the cable or DSL, you're sharing that. You're sharing that with 100 to 150 other businesses and residences in the area. And yes, you're doing that even if they label it business class, where business class between you and me means almost nothing, except they charge you more for it. So if the you're on cable and the guy up the street starts downloading Netflix so he can watch Netflix at night, that impacts your bandwidth on a DSL or cable circuit. Whereas a T1 is dedicated, you're not sharing it with anybody until you get to the public internet.
Interesting. I know these terms. I mean, I say I know them. I vaguely know the terms, but did not fully understand the difference or the value of the T1 there. That's interesting on the comparison.
I would put a T1 in the speed contest up against a 6 meg DSL circuit any day of the week, and at the end of the week, I'd have run circles around it, guaranteed, because of the dedicated versus shared aspect of it.
Got it. And is the T1, is it a copper line as well, or is it?
Yes, that's delivered on two twisted pair. But the way things are going, you look at the price of a T1, and for not even twice as much money, you can get into 10 meg fiber Ethernet, assuming it's available in a particular area.
And the fiber, I mean, is that kind of that fiber to the I mean, I don't know how to say this. So fiber, I know it's a big word out there that everybody's looking towards, and the speed of light, essentially the communications. But the fact that fiber is running through the street doesn't mean it's running to your property. Are you saying that you can get that dedicated line to the property?
Yes, in most cases I can. In copper, there's probably about 5 square millimeters in all of continental U.S. where I just can't get a T1 because I can't get the copper there. And a lot of the carriers, for example, upstate New York, Verizon has said we are not installing new copper anywhere. So, if a guy wants T1, there's a chance he won't be able to get it because Verizon is not installing new copper. That said, a lot of the copper in New England is left over untouched from the days of Alexander Graham Bell. But okay, that's a different discussion. But yeah, in terms of getting fiber somewhere, is the speed faster on fiber versus copper? No, it's a physics thing. They will run neck and neck in a race. It is exactly the same speed. However, fiber is a lot more flexible. It can go a lot more distance without being re-amplified, so you get the full signal when you get to the end of the pipe.
Gotcha. And I think that's interesting you bring that up, because I think a lot of people assume, and myself included, I can easily jump into that conversation of thought, is the fiber, that's the answer. But at the end of the day, you're limited to whatever the least whatever to say, the whatever is in between the start and the finish, whatever that smallest piece is going to really prohibit your speed to that.
Well, exactly. And that's why with DSL, there's distance limitation, because DSL is not re-amplified after it leaves the origination point of distribution. So when you get beyond 10,000, 11,000 feet without being re-amplified, there is natural electrical degradation where there's just not enough signal left to do anything with. It is not DSL's fault. It's just the fault of, that's what it is.
Got it. So let's step back from the tech talk here just a little bit, and let's talk more about well, no, it's easy, and I'm one to go there, but I'm just trying to think more in terms of commercial real estate, and you've mentioned some examples of some of your customers, and it sounds like you've got the ability to work nationwide. Am I hearing you correct?
That is right. Actually, with some of the carriers we've got, I work worldwide. I've got some proposals on the table right now for a point-to-point circuit, with one end terminating in Brunei, another end terminating in Singapore. But yeah, definitely nationwide.
Got it. And a typical client for you, are we talking? When we speak about real estate oriented, you mentioned earlier, and I can't remember if you did on this call or not, but a college oriented a property where there were the kids, the students, and their assumptions that everybody's going to have Wi-Fi and that.
Right.
Can you?
Yeah. Well, the Wi-Fi is something that the carriers typically don't provide unless you're in, like a major city, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, et cetera.
Right, but the property owner would be, I think where I was trying to think of it in our conversation was more about maybe an advantage a landlord or a property owner could provide in having that specifically to that community of, college-age residents or
Exactly, because one of the things that the advantage there is that the circuit comes into one point. You're not looking at, well, is it a problem with the radio frequency? Is it whatever? No. You've got it solid into this one point. Now, the property owner or building owner, whatever, takes it from there, and he wants to provide maybe wired and wireless, or maybe just wireless. Well, I would work with the property owner to say, okay, let's talk about the square footage you want to cover. You want to have at least 3-4 bars in every apartment, this kind of thing, and suggest equipment that he would get. Now, I get no benefit from suggesting that equipment, but I've been around the block enough times to understand that when you're looking at a commercial endeavor such as that, the typical wireless router you'd pick up at Best Buy or Office Depot is probably going to be insufficient for the job. You do want the industrial strength type there, and we can talk about the pros and cons of each and why that's a better solution ultimately.
Got it. And as far as I'm just trying to think who else on the commercial property, a good opportunity for you to work with. Can you give some more examples of property owners that you worked with?
Sure. One property owner, in fact, I just got email from him this morning. It's a company. They own the entire second floor of an office building just outside San Francisco. And he wanted to look at upgrading their current 20 meg circuit because they're expanding. They're also going to start acquiring a good portion of the third floor. So he needs to increase their capacity. And what do we need to do that? And John, what's the price? And what things should I look out for? So that's not something I would want to answer via email. It's not something the local carrier rep would probably answer with any level of detail, but it's something I'm more than happy to address and say, well, Bob, you need to look out for this. Here's what you can do. Here's what you can do, but don't forget this. And work with him to do that. And a lot of property owners I've worked with are office tenants I've worked with are in a very similar situation. In fact, I've had many offices refer me to the tenant on the 5th floor because he was just very happy with what I had done for him and how I'm watching out for his back.
Got it. Let's talk briefly about when somebody's looking for communication solutions like what you provide. If somebody's trying to determine whether or not the representative has the know-how or the ability to handle their needs, is there any kind of a list or some things that you can recommend that people ask the provider, the agent, to kind of guide them?
I would recommend that they listen to what the agent says, and the biggest thing is he taking interest in what I myself am trying to accomplish with this circuit? Is he looking out for me in the long term? Is he looking out for me a couple years down the road? Or is he looking to meet his quota by the end of this month? So it's one of those things where they need to understand and get a feel for that. And that's one of the things that I take pride in doing is saying, no, I'm not just a quote bunny. Just don't say, hey, I need a price for 20 meg Ethernet. Well, no, I'm not going to do that. Please tell me what you're trying to accomplish, and let's talk about that.
Right. I think that's always the preferred, is to have somebody that's solving the problem, not just the question or answering the question there.
Yeah, I think only one time in the last 15 years have I told a customer, I really don't have a way to accomplish that. You might want to talk to the local company because they can maybe provide something, but I said, I don't know what it would be, and I can't help you. If I can't help a customer, I'm more than happy to tell them that. But it's only happened once in 15 years.
Let me ask you kind of a look into the crystal ball question. You've been doing this a while. The changes that have happened are huge. Do you have any kind of sense of where things are going?
Yeah, from where I sit, I think fiber networks are going to continue to be deployed as much as possible and as fast as possible. In fact, fiber today is available in places I would not have even thought fiber would be available. I just sold a fiber circuit in Wiggins, Mississippi. Population like 400. I would have bet there would not have been fiber there, and there was. And one of my WISP customers picked it up and is providing WISP services to residents of that county. I see fiber, really taking off. I see the price coming down over time. I see wireless starting to kind of flatline a little bit because people want to have control over that. They want to do their own thing, whether it's a commercial wireless router like from Ubiquiti or Transcom, one of those companies, or they can get by based on their needs with a top-end router like the Netgear Nighthawk or whatever from residentially available, but it works for their small office. I see customers wanting to have more control over the wireless capability, especially as security becomes more and more of a something to watch out for. They don't want people latching onto their signal, looking at their data, this kind of thing, and that does give them that comfort level.
You mentioned the security. I'm just amazed. I think I saw in the paper today there was I don't remember what it was. There's, I guess, some sort of game that, I don't know, game, but they referred to it as a game, how people just kind of troll looking for networks they can access and get into and cause all sorts of havoc.
It's amazing. If I took my laptop in my car, and I did it a couple of years ago, I kind of drove around the neighborhood, and when I picked up a wireless signal from somebody's house, I'd pull over and see if I could get in. In better than 50% of the cases, they'd left the wireless admin password and username the same as it was when it came out of the box, and I was able to get into those networks more than half the time. That is really scary.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely a scary thing.
It's not just residential. I think there's a lot of commercial customers who have their wireless set up the same way simply because they don't realize this is something they need to change, and that's something I bring up to them, saying don't forget to do this. Right.
No, and that's the fun of all the advanced communications we have, all the additional chances to expose yourself or leave the door open kind of thing. So,
yeah. You don't want to put a neon sign saying, "Hey, break in here." But yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. I'm looking down my list of things, and I'm trying to think: is there, kind of a summary that you'd like to offer up as to what we've been talking about?
Yeah, I guess as far as that goes, I talk with a lot of customers. I mean, even customers who have the title of IT director, and it's amazing to me sometimes they don't know what the possibilities are. They think because they live in a Verizon area or a AT&T area where AT&T encompasses, Pac Bell, Bell South, Ohio Bell, et cetera, they think that's the only carrier that can provide them access, and that is absolutely not the case. The local exchange carrier, the LEC, is going to have responsibility for the last mile. But as far as your actual circuit, you could go with Nippon Telephone and Telegraph based in Tokyo, and they're still going to have to go through AT&T at the end of the day to get that circuit there. It's just, your options are not as limited as a lot of people would like to believe. And I would encourage anybody to shop around. There are some carriers that we represent that I will not sell that carrier, and I'm not going to mention by name who those are, but from experience, I understand the customer is not going to have a good experience with them, and I will not sell that carrier because I want to have happy customers, and a happy customer trumps having no customer.
Right. No, definitely. Well, that's great, and it's definitely an area of expanding opportunity, and I think I was just counting up the other day in our house. If you'd ask me how many wireless devices we have, my first thought would be just 3 or 4. But when you do the count, you realize it's in the teens, and we're just a family of 4. And I'm like, how did that happen? Yeah.
Even the new refrigerators they sell from Samsung down at Lowe's. I mean, you go to the top of the line model, it's got a display screen on the front to tell you what the current weather is. Well, that requires an internet connection.
Yeah. Is that weather in the refrigerator or weather outside?
No, right, exactly. But, I want a glass of milk. I don't care what the weather is outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is funny. Well, and I think one of the things I've always been amazed at is, while I don't see the potential or what the use of whatever the technology is when it's first introduced, there's somebody more creative than me out there that has a sense of how it can be applied. And the next thing you know, I'm going like, wow, that's amazing. And
It's a great place to be. It's almost a full-time job to keep up with what's happening in technology. But just when you think you've seen it all, you see somebody who's thinking outside the box, and you think, wow, again, okay, let's raise that roof just a little bit higher as far as capabilities. And it is truly amazing and very interesting industry. I just wish more customers would take the time to become familiar with what the possibilities are, and I think they'd be blown away.
Right. Do you have customers getting more into like the video chat communication? I mean, I'm just kind of curious on that. It seems like the world keeps getting smaller and smaller with the ability to do things like that.
Yeah, I've got quite a few customers doing video conferencing. Some of the carriers I represent, not all of them, do have a video conferencing package, but as far as how much bandwidth that takes, how much more bandwidth should I have if this is something I'm going to do twice a week, every day of the week, whatever, that really depends on the package you get, because they all have different requirements. And again, it's something we need to talk about to make sure that everybody else doesn't have to shut off their computer if you're going to do a video conference.
Yeah, that would be a little counterproductive there.
Yeah, it's kind of like what is that, Green Acres on TV? Unplug the toaster if you want to run the chainsaw.
Right. All right. Well, John, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today and give us a little insight into the telecommunications world and what's going on there, and a little look into the future. I really, really appreciate that. And before we sign off here, can you give us good contact information so if people want to reach out to you and continue a conversation?
Sure, absolutely. I'm more than willing to talk anytime. My office number, toll free, is 888-874-3837. My website, and Darren, I'll send you a quick white paper that talks about some bullet points there that you can distribute if you'd like. My website is www.business-ethernet.com. business-ethernet.com.
Got it. I'll put that in the show notes here so people can see the link there and click on that and get in touch with you.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to share this time with you and your audience. I do appreciate that, and as you can tell, I can talk about this kind of stuff till the cows come home. It's just a subject near and dear to my heart.
All right. Well, John, I appreciate you taking the time again, and we will try and do this again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
I hope you learned something that you can use with your client or your own properties. And I want to remind you, for a free guide on the benefits of working with a communication broker like John Arnold, be sure to click on the link in the show notes to get your benefits of working with a communication broker. I want to remind you that Your likes, shares, and follows are all greatly appreciated. If you're on LinkedIn, be sure to look up our group, Commercial Real Estate Pro Network. Until next time, thanks for listening to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio.
You're listening to CREPN Radio for influential commercial real estate professionals. For more information on this or any of our guests, like us on Facebook, CREPN Radio.